Richard or Tim, when it comes to now we're transitioning from the beginner conversation into the intermediate conversation, how do you start to price yourself when you're pretty good at what you do and you want to be paid properly for your work? How do you figure it out?
Add what you were saying, Rick, is first of all, like, I think the digital product conversation is on the complete opposite spectrum of the freelance. So freelance is usually about higher dollar, lower volume, and then digital products most of the time are about higher volume, lower dollar, right? So I think while you could easily make $500 freelancing, making music for somebody, it'd be a lot harder to do that for a digital product, especially on a marketplace surrounded by much cheaper alternatives, because people are not on the Unity Asset Store because they want custom made stuff. They're on the Unity Asset Store because they need something to plug into their game right there.
That's a really good point. Yeah, if you're on a place where people are looking for bargains and discounts and cheap, then that's what's going to do better as opposed to custom. Yeah, totally.
So the storefront and the method in which you acquire people is really important to the pricing conversation, right? Because where you get them, I think, are more important. And a great example of this is back in the day when I used to do marketing and websites and stuff like that. I was in LA, and you know what? Clients in Marina Del Rey and Beverly Hills and all of the
cha-ching. Yeah. This will cost you one small poodle in a handbag. That's how much this will cost you.
Like I'd meet him at a coffee shop and there's a Ferrari out front, and it's just a different spot than maybe downtown LA is, or Pasadena or any of those other places, right? So that applies to the physical world, but it also applies to the digital world, right? And I think Unity Asset Store is a perfect example. Like, those are people looking to just kind of get their game done. They don't necessarily want to spend hundreds or thousands of dollars on their stuff. Some of them do, but majority of them just want to get stuff plugged in. So where you're finding clients is important, and it's important to note. And if you're getting referrals, for example, like people that know you and trust you, I think you've entered the intermediate stage, at which place you can kind of charge a little bit more for your skill set, because you're known and you're trusted. But pricing when you're beginning is, I think, a lot more complicated, right? You can talk a little bit about that.
You can actually ask the client how much they're expecting to spend. I know it sounds crazy, and it doesn't always work, because some of them take that very personally and they're like, why? How much did you think you could charge me? But a lot of times asking someone how much they expect to spend can really inform the conversation, because if I have a client who says, I'm expecting to pay $20,000 for this website, you're like, why? And they're like, oh, I want the user to be able to log in and maintain a history of all their purchases and provide reviews. And then you're like, well, you said you just had a couple of items to sell. So, that's completely different. Whereas if they say, I have $2,000, tell them what you're comfortable building for $2,000.
Yeah.
Right. And that's where, you valuing your own time and your own skill comes into play. But also, like, it's very powerful if someone says to you, I can pay $7,000 for this little 2-page e-com site, and you go, that's too much. Like, this is, in my experience, how much a site like this should cost. And, maybe you've given up a few $1,000s, but you have built a reputation with that client, and you've just become a referable freelancer. Because when Tim's looking for his website, this client will say to Tim, you know what? I got treated really fairly. They gave me a good site for good value, and, you should really go talk to them.
Yeah. Another way to do that too is options. So a lot of times you'll talk to clients that may not know exactly what they want, and they'll throw out a bunch of ideas, and you don't necessarily want to come back to them with a gigantic price tag for everything that they talked about, right? You want to actually think this through like someone that's done this before, because you understand a little bit more than they do what's the kind of work that's required. So you can go in and create what's called a proposal, In the proposal, you can say, okay, well, here's the deal. I can do these 3 things and it's going to cost this much. Or option 2 is these 5 or 10 things and it's going to cost this much. And generally, what I've done is if I've managed to get a budget from the client, I usually would have 3 options, and I would have one below the budget, one at the budget, and one above the budget. And usually, weirdly, I never thought the above. My thinking for the above the budget one was to just make the below the budget ones more attractive, but the above the budget one actually got chosen quite a bit. So giving them options, giving them choice, and I think being transparent about what you're doing and kind of what you can include, I think is important. And I 100% agree with what Richard said. Just because someone said their budget is 20 grand for a website, that does not mean you want to create them a WordPress website and charge them 20 grand. I know that seems super attractive and super exciting that you could make that much money for that amount of work, but you want to be honest with them, because if you want to do this for a long time, I think that can come back around and nip you in the butt, and that's not
reputation is gigantic. That's how in business, that's how I think, well, I don't know the percentages, but in my experience, that's how that's how you get most of your work. Okay, it took me a while to figure out how to say words there, but got it. That's how you get most of your work, is word of mouth. You work with someone, you do a good job, and then they've got a friend who needs a similar service, and they're like, oh, you should, work with this guy. He's pretty good.
Yeah.
So your reputation is the gold standard. It's so important that you protect your reputation over everything. And, we're hanging out here with the GameDev.tv livecast, and we can talk a little bit about GameDev.tv in that everything we do is to be the best at what we do, deliver the best service, to have people be delighted. If someone's like, this course was no good, it's like, cool, here's your money back. No questions asked whatsoever. I don't know how to do this. Okay, here's the answer. This is not good enough. Okay, we'll fix it. This video was confusing. We'll fix it. This costs too much. Okay, we'll charge less for it. So, we have courses that take us nearly a year to make, and people can go buy them for $20. I mean, it's everything that we do is about our reputation, being the best of the best, and looking after our community as best we can. And I think as a result, we're all here hanging out, and you folks listening now, like, oh, you guys are okay. We're happy to listen and pay attention, because that's the partnership that we've got between ourselves as a service provider and you guys as more than just a user of those services. You're now part of our community. You're part of our gang. And so you have to have that exact same mentality as a freelancer, that your reputation is more important than anything else, because people talk.